Hello, BookTube. I thought I'd do the March of the Mammoths tag on a Tag Tuesday while I still have a chance. This is the last chance I have to do this on Tag Tuesday during March of the Mammoths, which is a BookTube event created by Jason at Old Blues Chapter and Verse, dedicated to paying a little attention to those gigantic books on your shelves. You don't necessarily have to finish a Mammoth in March, but to try it. See if it can hook you. See if you want to keep going when the month is over. And Jim at Jim's Books, Reading, and Stuff made a March of the Mammoths tag. And he tagged me a long time ago at the beginning of the month. So I haven't got around to it. I've had a great deal of fun watching other people do this tag. A lot of people have done this tag. Although a lot of people have done this tag, but the mega viral tag of the season so far, of 2025 so far, is the Snobometer tag by that reading guy. I must have seen 100 videos of people doing that so far, and they've all been great. But this one is fantastic too, because it throws a little light on the big books and the little books in your collection. So I thought we go through it here and see what the questions are. So question number one is: are you currently reading a Mammoth? And no, I'm currently making a video. I don't. Like the whole currently reading thing, I don't typically do. I usually just read a book, and then I wake up from my stupor of absorbing it and go back to the world and do a bunch of stuff in the world and check my hair and then read another book. So not at the moment. No, there are going to be questions later on about what I've just read or what I'm about to read. Question number two is: what is the biggest book you have ever read? That would be this. Reclaiming History by Vincent Bugliosi. This huge thing, which is 1,600 pages long, but it has a disc in the back, which I can no longer play. I don't have any technology here that will play a disc, but I did play it several times when I first got this book and first reviewed it. And the disc is supporting materials for the book, but not just op-sit and alt-site and whatnot. The notes are narrative, and they're another 1,000 pages. So, I definitely include them as part of the book. So this thing is oversized already. You can't really tell on camera, but there'd be very little way to print this with the notes in it in the text. So I'm kind of glad that I read those notes from that disc when I did. It never occurred to me. God, how long ago was that? That was a long time ago. Well, when did this come out? 2007. This came out in 2007. That's when I read it, and that's when I read it for the first time, and that's when I read the notes on the disc. Just plugged them into the laptop that I had at the time. When Open Letters Monthly, the online literary journal where I was the managing editor, was still brand new. We were just a year old. And it was a challenge and a delight to read this through and then pore over it and then review it. And since I include I'll never read those notes again unless they come out as a book of their own. I'll never read them again. So, but I did read them once, and I think, narratively speaking, they are part of the book. In a perfect version of this book, there wouldn't be footnotes. They would just be worked in as elaborations in the text. I believe that's where most of them started. So that if you do that, if you count those, and I do, then that's 3,000 words. That 3,000 pages. That's certainly the longest book that I've read. Then question number three is: what is the smallest book you have ever read? I actually have the prop here. I went and got it from my channel. It's not something that's available. It doesn't have an ISBN. It was privately printed. It's this. Red. This is by Dale Roberts and Travis Kelly, and it is a little book about a little dog. To Steve, from with love from your pal, Red. And we just get through the colors, and the little dog's name is Red. And I noticed him for the first time because he used to ride on the shoulder of a woman who came into the bookstore where I worked. And he was a little standoff. He was a tiny little dog, and he was a little standoffish. Of course, That doesn't apply to me. And I told his owner that. She came up to my information desk to ask a question. And I answered the question, and I said, I'd also like to smooch your dog. And she said, oh, I'm very sorry. You seem very nice, but he doesn't like to smooch with people. Until he knows you, he doesn't like to smooch with people. And I refrained. I refrained from saying the right response to that. Sometimes I have said it out loud. Sometimes I haven't always refrained, which is to look the owner in the face and say, we do know each other. We do know each other. We know each other a lot better than you and I do. But instead I said, how about we try it? And, of course, Red had a tiny little face, a tiny, tiny little tongue that went nuts. Just went nuts. And that is why I got a copy of it. I think this went just to family. But that's why I got a copy of this, because Red and I were close friends. And it got to the point where when that woman would come into the store, Red would see me. He was still sitting on her shoulder. And he would see me and just start vibrating. He didn't make any noises. He would just start vibrating. And she used to say, when I'm just here, looking at the books or shopping at the magazines, I know when you're nearby because he'll start vibrating. He spots you right away. So that would be the smallest book that I've ever read. So we go from reclaiming history to Red. Then question number 4, is the size of a book intimidating? No part of a book. The size, the language, the author's multiple disabilities, the author's misuse of the word spectrum. No part of a book intimidates me. No. Question number 5, is size a consideration when deciding what to read next? Not usually. I'd say 99% of the time, no. For those of you who are new to my channel, I am a book critic, and most of my reading is the new releases in the American book market. And I segregate them by month, and then within the month I segregate them by year. I'm just coming up on needing to swap out the books for April. Even though it's mind-numbingly cold, it is still going to be April soon. And that determines what I will read next, usually. And even when that isn't in play, even when I'm talking about what I'm going to reread or what older book I'm going to read next, because I do used book shopping, or just browsing on my Kindle, even when I've moved on there, it's usually not the length of the book that will decide. It's usually some strand of interest that has been sparked by a review that I've read or a BookTube video that I've watched or something like that, but not length. Only once in, I'd say 1% of the time, if I am reading a bunch of flyweight stuff, I will want to lose myself in a book. I will want to just be subsumed in a text for a long period of time, and that won't work with, I'm a very fast reader, that won't work with me with a normal length book. So sometimes I want that, but usually not. No, usually it's other things that determine what I will read next. Then question number 6 is, how many pages long is the book you are reading now? Well, since I don't really do the whole reading now thing. I did stop reading this long enough to make this video. This is a reread, Victoria's Century by David Kennedy. This is a historian that I really, really like. He has a real way with words, real insight into even common, well-known subjects. And I read this when it first came out. This is 5 years old now, I think. I should check this ahead of time. 2017, so almost 10 years old. I read this when it first came out, really liked it. I have to say, in the reread, I am not enjoying it as much. I'm noticing a lot of flab that I didn't notice the first time, so that's a little bit disappointing. I don't know if that'll stay true, but the sparks, the rhetorical neatness that I like in this author is very much there. It's just, I don't know, maybe I've just hit a rough patch in the book. But oh wait, we were supposed to ask how many pages. I think this is under 600. No, it's exactly 600 pages long. Let's see here. So that doesn't count as a mammoth. Question number 7, what is the average length of the books that you read? Well, as I mentioned, most of the books that I read are in the American book market. New releases in the American book market in the 15 or 16 genres that interest me. And the American book market, books are 238 pages long. Period. End of story. Very rarely they will be 100 pages more than that. Almost unheard of that they'll be any longer than that. Almost unheard of. Uh, Partially because of the publishing industry will say, partly that's because of operating expenses. I think also it's because of the TikTokification of the attention span. We thought that social media prior to TikTok had eroded the attention span, but TikTok makes paying attention basically Tinder swiping. So that is the length of time that I can pay attention to anything, is just, am I going to swipe right or swipe left? And that is now applying to anything. Is why you have on all across TikTok, you have people cosplaying as readers who could not read a single chapter of Madame Bovary. They couldn't read a single chapter of that book. If you said, all right, I've got a featureless room here, no windows, search, of course, no social media, no Wi-Fi, and you have to leave your phone outside. There's a comfy chair, and there's a copy of Madame Bovary. I want you to go in there and read chapter 1 silently. There's virtually nobody that I've seen. I've seen thousands and thousands of alleged book people on Book Talk. There's not one of them that could do it. Physically couldn't do it. And as long as publishing industry knows that, then not only can they read the writing on the wall and see that they as an industry are effectively doomed, but also they know that even before the end comes, they have to shorten their books. They have to. You can't be coming out with gigantic tomes. So the average page count of the stuff that I read is not a choice of mine. It's just the way the American book industry is. It's 238 to 345 pages, thereabouts, right about in there. Question number 8 is, do you think humans will bring back mammoths from extinction? I'm sure in some limited capacity they will. There are a couple of projects that are well along trying to do that. It involves a number of different ethical lapses and moral crimes. The ones that I typically hear when this subject comes up are, well, do we have any right to repopulate a species that's gone? Do we have any right to repopulate a species that's extinct? Do we have any right to bring them into this world? I don't hear many people talking about the biggest, of course, moral crime of the whole thing, which is rape, because there aren't any woolly mammoths now. So if you sequence their genes and figure out what you need to do to alter an elephant egg in order to give it mammoth characteristics, you still have to inseminate an elephant and have that elephant bring an animal to term without any voluntary participation on that elephant's part. She is going to be spending a lot of her life pregnant, and you don't know what's going to do to her at all. She's an unwilling test subject, and that is, of course, the number one ethical crime. But ethical crimes don't stop humans. The technology is there, so I think probably it will happen. And then question number 9 is, do you think they should? And of course, I don't think they should. Not because Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park, because nature selected them for extinction. Nature did not select the woolly mammoth for extinction. Humans killed the woolly mammoths, exterminated them, extinct, dead. I know there are a whole bunch of paleobiologists who will say, well, no, it's much more complex than that, and involves complex issues of gradual climate change and the decrease in hunting ranges and the lower amounts of annual yields of the food that these animals needed in massive quantities, 10,000 pounds every week or something like that. It's far more complex than that, and of course the climatic conditions of the Bering Land Strait, etc., etc., etc. And you know what all of those specialists have in common? They're all human. They're all human. It's humans that killed off woolly mammoths. It's humans that killed off megafauna everywhere. It wasn't gradual climate change. It wasn't an eruption of the Toba supervolcano. It wasn't anything like that. If you can look at the evidence that is speaking plain facts and start to pirouette because the facts implicate your own species, I'm not going to do that. Everywhere that humans go, not only do almost all the charismatic megafauna disappear, but also all the other human species disappear. Because Homo sapiens is just one species of human. we're the only one left. But we're the only one left because we killed all the others. But anyway, but no, I don't think that mammoths should be brought back into the world, not because of any violation of, nebulous scientific ethics or whatnot. Science obviously comes with no ethics. But rather because they'd be brought back for only one reason. It's the same reason that scientists are even thinking about doing it. And that is to kill them all over again. That's the only reason humans do anything involved with other species, is to kill them. You can say, well, if we're in Russia, we will make a petting park and charge a fortune for people to come and see woolly mammoths. But no, that isn't what you will do. You might do that, but the main thing that will be driving you, the main thing in the mind of not only every financier, but also every scientist who is doing this, is the thrill of killing a woolly mammoth. Why resurrect an entire species just to kill them all again? It's just such a perfect illustration of the warped, damaged genetic heritage of Homo sapiens sapiens. That no, no, I don't know where that warped, damaged heritage comes from. I have no idea. Was there some sort of hole in the ozone layer over one part of the Oldavi Gorge, 200 and 300,000 years ago, that affected the genetic lineage of just this one species of human? As we know for a fact that the other species of humans were not genocidal. But was it that? Was it radiation of some kind? I have no idea what it is. Or maybe it's a cultural thing. But either way, the only reason that Homo sapiens sapiens, that our species, would want to resurrect another species would be to kill it. So I don't, of course, agree with that. I don't want that to happen at all. And then the final prompt here is to tag some people. And I jotted down here I'll leave links to 3 channels that I am in the slow, gradual process of driving off BookTube. There's Jenna Wortman from the channel Too Much Tutor. I think we're getting her close to 100 subscribers. It'd be nice if we could get her higher than that. Genuine tutor scholar in our midst. There's Christopher Russell, who has a nice bright smile on his face, but between Randy Ray, the literate Texan, and myself, we'll drive him off BookTube, don't you worry. And also Robin Song Reeds, who made 3 videos, something like that. I routed him in the Hall Wars, and he has not shown his face since. God knows what he's doing or where he's doing it. But I tag those, and also anybody else who hasn't done this tag. We're at the end of March of the Mammoths, so a lot of people have done this. But if you haven't, feel free. I'd love to hear your thoughts on resurrecting mammoths. Like you could do that. You can't do that. The creature that would result would be a mammoth, a mammoth African elephant hybrid. Patchy hair, probably sterile. It would be a monstrosity, and you might be able to tweak the genetics or even its hygiene to get it to look more like a woolly mammoth. But anyway, well, so grim mammoth related tidings for March of the Mammoths as it comes to a close. But in addition to tagging people on March of the Mammoths, I'd also love to hear how your March of the Mammoths has gone or is going right now. Did you decide to participate? And if so, did you have it in mind to actually finish a mammoth? And if you decided to do that, are you going to do it, do you think? Because that's fascinating to me. That kind of stuff is fascinating to me. But anyway, I'll leave a link to Jim's video down below, and I will see you all soon. Thank you, BookTube.